All right, welcome back. At this point, I will assume that you have localhost installed on your computer and it is running. Again, I will also assume that you have installed PHPRad Classic in your computer. As for me, I'm using PHPRad Classic version 2.7.3. So let's open PHPRad Studio. As you can see on top here, we have PHPRad Studio Classic Edition version 2.7.3. You might be having a latest version or sub or lower version, but they are all the same thing when it comes to the basics of it. Okay, the number one thing I want you to notice is that we have some options on top here, which start with file, the global setting, the helper, the view helper, and hub itself. So this file houses new project, open project, save project as exit application, which is same with what we have here, new project, open project, save project, project settings. Now this project setting is a bit related to what we have here, but not completely the same. All right. So at this global setting, moving to the next one, which is this global setting, you may like to do some changes, but at this point, I will advise you not to do any changes. So first of all, first of all, let's create our first project and see how it's going to look like. So to create a first project, two things are involved. Number one thing is you need a data that your project will store information on, because PHPRad built a web application, not just a simple website. Though we can use this web application as a simple website, but it will come in form of a web application. And most of the time, web application has a data that stores, or a database where they store information. So that's number one thing you need to understand about PHPRad. So let's create a new project. Over here, we are asked to, of course, this project must have a name, the direction, the address, the language, the server, the icon path, the configuration, the select database. All these things is a bit confusing, but you don't have to worry about it because we are going to take it one after the other. So this first project, we are going to call it basics, basic project, basic project. As you can see over here, the location of the folder that will be created for this project will be located on the drive C, the folder called XAMPP. Inside the folder called XAMPP, locate htdocs. Then inside htdocs, it will save on this folder. So that's definitely what PHPRad will create for us. Then if you want to access this project that we are creating, you can access it with this link, http localhost slash basic projects. Is as simple and straightforward as that. You can enable this multi-language if you like, but if you don't, you can neglect it. It doesn't matter. Make sure that the web server is checked on, and over here you can select a database we'll be using. As for me, I will advise you to maintain my SQL Mirror DB. Some people may like to use SQLite, but for this tutorial, I'm going to use my SQL Mirror DB, which is what XAMPP or WAMP are using as their database. So moving down to database server configuration. Of course, the server is local host, the port. As for me, I'm using the default port provided by XAMPP. So I don't need to make any changes here. It's not necessary. But when you are uploading it online, this port is going to be needed. So the user is root for sure. The password, I'm not, when I'm installing my local host, I mean my local server, which is XAMPP, they gave me the option of putting a password on it, but I ignored that part. So in actual sense, I don't have a password that protects my local database. But in your case, you may have a password. So you just go straight and you put your password here. So over here is where we have the data that are inside our local server. Okay, but for your own case, as a new person that just installed local server or that just installed a local host in his or her computer, you may not have this thing because these are the project of database I've created. So for your case, you need to create a new database, of which we are going to do here. Now, moving on to the next one, which is choose icon pack. The icon pack I love to use is Simple Line. So I'm going to choose it and we will hit create project. But remember that we have not selected any database. And I said that PHPRad builds a web application and web application makes use of database. Okay, so we need to create a new database and we need to call that database a name. I'm going to call this basic p project basic project. I'm going to call it basic project. I like my database to have a surface, or I mean a yeah, a surface of DB. So when you are done with that, just go straight and hit create database. But remember, if you don't add this thing, it's not going to do anything. It's just a name. It doesn't matter what you typed in your name. Just type something straightforward, simple for you to remember, and you click on create database. Now this is the option this is the warning or alert message we are having. New database was created. Click on create project to continue. Okay. So we are not going to click on create project to continue. All right, like I told you, you need a data. And we have created a database, but inside this database, there is no table, which is compulsory. Okay, so we are going to create our first table. Automatically, PHPRad has created that table called table 1. But we can rename it to something. I'm going to call this table accounts. Right, and this table, the field, we are going to give add field to our table. So the first field here is ID. I will advise you not to tamper with this ID. You can move forward and create another field. I will call this one name, or let's say first name, and this one will be last name, and this one will be email. Does it matter? Let's put some info here, and this one will be date. I think this at this point we are okay. Now, there are some basic things you may like to understand about this card of a thing you are seeing. This is a database, or yeah, database. You'll be seeing this thing in PHPRad anytime you want to edit your database or one or two things that have to do with the database side. You will encounter this card. Now this card on the left side of it is where you houses all the tables you'll be creating. So you can go ahead and add another table, or you can go ahead and duplicate this table, or you can just remove the table. Let me show you an example. As you can see, I click this, a new table has been added. So I can simply delete this table and it will just go away like that. It's very simple. So over here, over this side, is where you will have the field, and each of these field you can manage it or configure, do some certain configuration. But generally, PHPRad makes use of this ID and it sets this ID at its primary key. So I will advise you to leave this ID as your own primary key. Just don't change anything when it comes to ID, because it's already an integer and the character size is 11, and is an auto increment field, which is a primary key. So moving to the next one, which is first name. This first name is actually in virtual. Will I call it? Yeah, let's call it virtual, as some people used to call it vaca, but I prefer calling it virtual. The default value, we set nothing to be the default value. The character size is 255. You may decide to have it null, but all these things doesn't matter because you can simply do that at the other side, which I'm going to show you very soon. But concerning the date, we want the date to peak. Just see how simple these things are. You can just choose what you want. The date can pick timestamp, and by default PHPRad will give it a default value, which is current timestamp. Okay, And the size, you don't need to worry about all these things. Just click save changes. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to PHPRad Studio. It's amazing. You are almost done with creating your first project. So the next thing we like to do is just to preview what you have done. This project is not yet published. Do you want to publish the project? Yes, we want to publish it. And you wait for the script to do its things. We're almost there. Almost. I'm sure we are almost. Just give it a time, it will come. Boom. We are done. Just click OK. If you like, you can view it on a browser, something like this. It will just come in a bigger browser like this. Or you can simply click OK to have them close. Okay. So we have two options on the nav bar, which is the home and the account. If you can remember, we have a table we called accounts. So PHPRad have created a page for us, which is the account. So inside this account, we can add some information to that table. Let me show you something. First name is we call this guy Wilson, and the second name we'll call it John. Information, we can say John is a boy, and we save this. As you can see, record added successfully, and this is our data. This is what we just added, and it has putting it in a table form. We can go on and add more data and data and data. But one thing I want you to do before you call it a day, just click on this save project. With this, you can access your project again whenever you click this guy, open a project, you can simply access this project that we have created. So we are going to save this project as basic project, and we hit save. All right, project saved successfully. So guys, I want to say thank you for joining us in this tutorial. But before I call it a day, I want to say a very big thank you to the Big Blessings for supporting this PHPRad development, front-end development movement. I just want to say a very big thanks to Big Blessings. You have been a blessing indeed to our improvement or to our development. And also, I want to say a very big thanks to Tin and all of you guys out there doing a massive work to support this movement. And also, I want to say a very big thanks to Promzi. She has been doing a very big work as well. So, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.